In recent months, a seismic shift in international sentiment has taken shape. A broad-based boycott of American goods now reverberates across multiple continents. At the center of this diplomatic maelstrom stands a singular figure whose policies have not only redefined American trade and immigration practices but have also significantly strained the country's relationships with its traditional allies. This report delves into the intricate tapestry of economic, political, and social factors underpinning the global backlash, presenting a detailed examination of the causes and consequences of these unprecedented boycotts. The roots of the current international discontent can be traced back to a series of policies and strategic maneuvers enacted by the administration. Notably, proposals that some have interpreted as imperial ambitions, ranging from the highly contentious idea of expanding American territory to a militaristic recalibration of historically sensitive regions, have ignited fierce debates both at home and abroad. Such proposals, while framed by the administration as measures to protect national interests, have sparked widespread concerns about American unilateralism in global affairs. The attempt to redefine geopolitical boundaries and assert dominion over regions traditionally under the purview of other sovereign nations has not only unsettled the international community, but has also cast long shadows over America's commitment to multilateral diplomacy. Equally significant are the domestic policy shifts that have compounded the diplomatic strain. The administration's hardline stance on immigration, characterized by sweeping reforms and stringent enforcement measures, has been met with alarm both within the United States and by foreign governments. These policies, viewed by many as both exclusionary and counterproductive, have only deepened the ideological divides and heightened international suspicions. In parallel, the imposition of expansive tariffs on a range of imported goods has reverberated far beyond the borders of the United States. While intended as a tool to bolster domestic industries and recalibrate the trade balance, these tariffs have inadvertently set off a chain reaction, provoking retaliatory measures that now threaten to destabilize key economic sectors. The consequences of these policy decisions are not confined to abstract geopolitical debates. They have produced tangible and far-reaching economic repercussions that are being felt across the United States. For decades, the American economic model has relied on an intricate web of global supply chains. While many of these chains involve domestic assembly or final production stages, they are nonetheless deeply dependent on a steady influx of components and raw materials from abroad. Take, for instance, the agricultural sector. Modern farming is a complex enterprise that extends far beyond the fields. Even if a U.S. farmer prides themselves on cultivating locally grown produce, the machinery and equipment necessary to achieve a successful harvest, such as tractors and harvesters, often rely on imported components. From high-grade steel and aluminum to sophisticated engine parts, these essential inputs are now subject to the very tariffs designed to protect domestic markets. The resulting increase in production costs ultimately filters down to consumers, manifesting in higher prices for food and other critical goods. This economic domino effect is amplified by the retaliatory tariffs imposed by other nations. As countries such as Canada, Mexico, China, and several European states seek to defend their own economic interests, they have taken decisive measures to counteract the U.S. policies. American companies that once enjoyed a privileged market position now find themselves confronting a barrage of obstacles. Some of the most iconic American brands, including major fast food chains, global retailers, and leading tech companies, are facing targeted boycotts that have seen their products removed from store shelves and distribution channels across multiple continents. In markets where these companies once symbolized quality and convenience, there is now an emerging sentiment that equates American goods with the very policies that have polarized global opinion. International boycotts are not merely symbolic acts of protest. They represent a calculated economic strategy by nations seeking to safeguard their domestic industries and reassert their autonomy in an increasingly multipolar world. Retailers in countries such as Canada and across Europe have taken definitive steps to pull American products from their shelves, a move that disrupts well-established trade relationships and forces a reconsideration of supply chain logistics. The consequences of these decisions are profound, affecting not only large multinational corporations but also small businesses that depend on steady export channels. As the cost of doing business escalates due to both direct tariff hikes and the indirect effects of market isolation, the average American consumer is poised to shoulder the burden in the form of elevated prices and reduced product availability. The ramifications of these unfolding events extend far beyond economic metrics. They strike at the very heart of America's global standing. In an era marked by rapid technological advances and evolving geopolitical alliances, the unilateral approach adopted by the current administration is increasingly viewed as an anachronism. The imposition of tariffs and the pursuit of a belligerent trade policy have led to a marked deterioration in trust, a cornerstone of international relations. Countries that once stood shoulder to shoulder with the United States in matters of security, trade, and cultural exchange are now reevaluating the costs of continued cooperation under an increasingly unpredictable U.S. policy framework. The fallout from these policies is both immediate and far-reaching. American industries that once relied on integrated global networks now face a strategic dilemma: either absorb rising costs or seek to reconfigure supply chains in a manner that mitigates the impact of tariff barriers. This challenge is particularly acute for sectors where the interplay between imported components and domestic assembly is inextricable. Consider the automotive and heavy machinery industries, where the production process is a delicate balancing act between domestic labor and international resources. Even where a significant portion of the production process occurs within the United States, the reliance on imported inputs has rendered these industries vulnerable to the cascading effects of trade disputes. The ensuing economic pressure is likely to spur an urgent re-examination of domestic manufacturing practices and may well lead to a broader re-evaluation of the nation's trade policies. At its core, the current wave of global boycotts is emblematic of a broader shift in the international order, a shift that reflects deep-seated frustrations with policies perceived as short-sighted and self-serving. The backlash is not confined to the corridors of government; it has permeated everyday commerce and social consciousness. In marketplaces around the world, the very act of purchasing an American product has become an implicit political statement, a manifestation of collective disapproval toward an administration that appears increasingly detached from the realities of global interdependence. As we navigate this complex landscape, the need for a recalibrated approach to trade and international diplomacy has never been more urgent. American policymakers now face a critical juncture: continue on the current path and risk further alienation from the global community, or pivot toward a more inclusive and multilateral strategy that acknowledges the intricate realities of modern commerce and diplomacy. The choices made in the coming months will likely shape the trajectory of U.S. foreign policy for years to come and will determine whether America can restore its standing as a reliable partner in the international arena. In conclusion, the unfolding scenario of global boycotts against American goods is a stark reminder of the interconnected nature of today's world. What began as a series of unilateral policy decisions has evolved into a complex economic and diplomatic crisis with far-reaching consequences. The intricate interplay of tariffs, supply chain disruptions, and international countermeasures underscores the delicate balance that underpins modern trade relations. For the American consumer, the economic pain is real, manifesting in higher prices and reduced availability of once ubiquitous goods. For businesses and policymakers, the challenge is clear. A fundamental reassessment of the nation's approach to international relations is imperative if America is to reclaim its role as a leader in global trade. This investigation has traced the origins and impacts of the policies in question, revealing a landscape marked by deep-seated tensions and transformative challenges. The evidence suggests that the current trajectory is unsustainable and that without a recalibrated strategy, the United States risks not only further economic setbacks but also a diminished role on the world stage. In this pivotal moment, the imperative for balanced, informed, and strategic policymaking cannot be overstated. As the global community responds to these developments with resolute measures and deliberate boycotts, the future of American commerce, and indeed American influence, hangs in the balance.